Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the afternoon session of Day 3 of the Ficci E-Frames 2020. We start this afternoon with some heavyweights. To tell us more, I would like to introduce Dr. Jyotsna Suri, past president, Ficci, and chairperson and managing director, the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group. Doctor, the platform is all yours.
Thank you very much. Namaskar and an extremely warm welcome to all of you who have joined us on this virtual platform. A very special welcome to you, our guest of honor, Mr. Aaditya Thackeray, Honorable Cabinet Minister of Tourism, Environment and Protocol, Government of Maharashtra. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the youngest minister in the cabinet and took oath when he was only 29. We're indeed honored to have you with us, Mr. Thackeray. Maharashtra has been clearly the most affected. I mean, Delhi is following close on your heels from the COVID-19 crisis. But we have to admit that the government of Maharashtra has really handled the situation well. Despite the sheer scale and challenges that have come due to this pandemic, we do need to recognize Mr. Thackeray, Mr. Aditya Thackeray's contribution to this. He single-handedly brought in the jumbo medical facility of 5,000 beds for COVID. Congratulations to you. That was a mammoth job. Well done. Mr. Aditya Thackeray has also ensured completion of many long pending issues in tourism, an industry that I represent, an industry which is completely mangled at the moment, an industry which needs your support, Mr. Thackeray. I'm also extremely pleased to welcome Mr. Anant Goenka, Executive Director of Indian Express Group, who is going to be moderating this extremely interesting session. Over to you, Anant, to take this session forward.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Jyotsna ji.
Thank you, Jyotsna ji, for that kind introduction. And thank you, Anant, for having me out here.
Yeah, it was very tough to say no when Ficci asked because, and I'll tell you three reasons, Aditya, why it was tough to say no. One is, I'm not sure whether you're aware, but I was riding pillion on a bike of a Yuva Sena worker named Abhijit during the last rally you did before elections, before it was called off. And I was, and so I, over the years, I think I've had a good first-hand, understanding of the love and adulation that you command from your party workers, and I really believe, personally, I believe it's genuine. It's a genuine and not a forced love and respect that they have for you. So you've obviously earned that. So it's a real pleasure to invest time in getting to understand and know your journey. Second reason, I think it's rare and refreshing for me to be doing this sort of a conversation with a politician of the same generation, Aditya. So that's something that doesn't happen. And even in the off chance that I am talking to some next generation politician, very rarely have they, there's very little talk to them about, because very rarely do they actually take on day-to-day responsibilities and put themselves in a position of being accountable to the public like you have. So I'm excited about this conversation. And thank you. So
thank you. I remember when you were riding pillion in that rally, and I was actually told that you're coming, and I was looking forward to meet you. And somehow, the bike rally happened to be so huge, and I was looking for you throughout the rally. And suddenly at night, when I got back home, of course, without meeting you in the rally, I had an entire report of about your observations from my mom, and I was like, "How did you get that from?" I think she got it from your mother.
My mom, maybe, yeah.
So that was something which is, and then
but I was hoping that you wouldn't notice that I was there, but and also I am, as was introduced, I am the literal heavyweight. You're the metaphorical heavyweight in this conversation, but I'm the literal heavyweight, so it's tough to miss. But I think let's let me start by asking about the responsibilities you've taken. There could not have been a more challenging time for you to get to doing this. Mumbai specifically is such a densely populated global travel hub. Cases are rising, whether the curve is peaked, going to peak, has peaked, but will resurge. It's fed up hearing these things. Now you've put a brave face through all of it. How tough has it been?
No, to be honest, a lot of my friends or people I know, and well-wishers always keep telling me in the last 3-4 months that you've taken over government, and you're facing one of the biggest global crises. Is it the right time to take over, the wrong time? Do you think there could have been a better time? And I just keep telling all those people, that it's in a time like this, it's actually a privilege to be serving. Because had we not been in government, we would have been working as well. But being in government, you can actually direct the way you respond as a state towards a particular way. And I think it's a privilege to serve. It's a privilege to be working, because this is something, of course, it is a time which is of great crisis, of great trouble for the world. But again, this pandemic is something that the world would always remember in books of history. And in that time, if you can really go out there, save lives, serve people, it is important. Again, in terms of numbers, of course, we've been telling all our officers from day one, because of course, even they've gone through cycles of ups and downs, personal troubles. Most of the officers haven't gone home for the last 3-4 months because they've been on field and they've got to isolate themselves from elderly parents or young kids or pregnant wives. A lot of them, actually, I know 2-3 of our officers who are actually expecting kids, or some of them have delivered and they haven't seen their babies for the last 2 months. These are tough times. But I keep telling them now that don't be scared of numbers, because whenever there's an epidemic or a pandemic, the numbers are bound to be large. As officers, as government, you're not going in infecting more people. You're not injecting the virus into people. That is a virus. It's going to be there. Our duty is to identify as many people as possible who are infected, trace them, test them, isolate them, and contact tracing is very important. So in an epidemic, normally, like, how we say that the messenger is always short, like that, a higher number is always penalized in popular opinion. But a higher number actually means that your state has been actually able to identify a higher number of population that has been infected and been successful in isolating them. So that is there. Of course, there is an everyday struggle, because a pandemic of this scale was never seen before by the world. So initially, around, say, March, April, the whole night we used to be up trying to reach out with ambulances and beds and oxygenated beds. Each week, a new line of treatment has evolved. Somewhere down the line now, like Mrs. Suri said, that, we've created the jumbo facility. So there's a whole team that's gone into it, right from our AMCs to police to BMC to SIDCO, MHADA. So we've tried to keep everything together and keep our heads sane and still grounded and trying to work.
Yeah, but it's obviously an incredible job. I mean, I'm sure there'll be various ways you'll be sliced and diced. But, the one thing that does come out, Aditya, is from this answer and, otherwise, is the humility. I'll give a small story. One of our reporters, Indian Express reporter Abha Goradia, tweeted about an athlete, a footballer who was stuck at the Mumbai airport for 72 days, and you kind of took notice of that tweet. You got him hosted in a hotel, and that happens in politicians. And I'm not surprised you did that. But what I was surprised was, after the report came the next day in the Mumbai Mirror about you doing this, you tweeted saying that the credit goes to Abha Goradia and your colleague who kind of worked there. So I really feel that whatever I've seen you, and whatever we in media see you, you're very different from what we would have typically expected. One is, of course, the humility, but I think more than that, I think you've brought a lot of progressive energy to the Sena. You're championing. Firstly, you're often seen wearing shirts and pants and not kurta pajama. You've championed causes like the environment, sports, football is your thing, keeping nightlife open late. So how difficult was it to be such a major progressive sort of voice and force within the Sena?
I really never looked at it as something, as a mission to do anything different from whatever's been done, or, take it up as a project. Because if that is the case, then you start defining timelines and then, the way you're going to set about it. Honestly, what my grandfather's always told me, or what even my father has always told me, if you see his dressing sense also, he's never changed. He's not worn his jackets or whatever. He doesn't believe that if you've become a minister or chief minister, that you should change your personality. Yes. Of course, there is a more formal role that you take in, the responsibility is more. But what people have accepted you for is something that you have to carry on. The moment you start isolating yourself or creating a bubble for yourself, I think that is where you get a little removed from the people, and that's where the disconnect happens. So you might even see me tomorrow walking somewhere in a t-shirt and tracks. And, how I do my work is very important, more than the visual optics, because
Sure.
that is one thing. And about Abha, actually, when she tweeted to me, I didn't realize she's from the Indian Express group. I just saw this tweet and I marked my colleague Rahul, because we've had this habit, and nowadays when you don't get sleep at night, normally I'm a late sleeper. What I try to do is, throughout, just try to be a platform to help people. And there have been, a couple of people who've linked up with me recently over Twitter, absolutely not known their background, not, I don't know where they stay, who they are, but they've just started helping, tagging me. And normally in a situation like this, what we do is we say, okay, the system will take care of it.
Yeah.
But I come here in a dual role. I am a part of that system, and as citizens, all of us are part of that system. So what is the system that will take care of it? That is us. So just like Twitter is a platform, I try to be a platform and connect two dots, and that is how we've reached out. But finally, I believe that it's not going to take me anywhere if I start taking credit, because where does credit take you? It's for the person who's due, who's done that work, and you, by giving that, you actually encourage the person to do much more.
Yeah.
So somewhere you're just creating many more good Samaritans in the society who would actually help more people. So that, and football, of course, is a special connection. So that, I think, helped up speed the response rate, I think.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
that's wonderful.
it's something like, I see you very often. We don't take the load of a legacy. I think that is.
Yeah.
We just believe that we're here to do good, and that's what keeps us
No,
going.
and that's wonderful and very refreshing. I want to say we must point out and pause to accept that that is different and refreshing. So we are at Wiki Frames, Aditya, and since it's media, what according to you is progressive for media and entertainment?
I mean, see, the thing is, what I've noticed of it is a younger generation. When I did town halls with college students across Maharashtra last year, I did the Jan Ashirwad Yatra. What I realized is all of our age group is actually not scared of asking the right questions at the right time.
Right.
We're not scared of whoever it is in front of us, be it the tallest leader, the strongest leader, a leader who is extremely liberal or who has dictatorial capacities. We're always asking the right questions. So I think that is a major strength that we've got. Secondly, of course, again, in a time that is changing with pandemic, with technology, a lot of media has adjusted itself to social media and quicker news. So what in the last 10 years I see as a change is even as Samna, basically. We've come onto social media. So what used to be 24 hours news cycle has now become an hourly news cycle to a minute by minute news cycle. If there is something which is a rumor, or even say what we call fake news, or something which is not really clearly communicated to the people, within the next minute you can actually change the news cycle and say, okay, this is what it is. This is a rumor, don't believe in this, or this is wrong news, or this is something that is going right or wrong. So I think that is, of course, a major thing. Again, speaking from a political perspective and from a media perspective as well, I think there's also a little bit of scurry for news, which is also probably not verified at times, and that could be detrimental. So that is one of my worries, where we try for the news break on social media, and that could be a double-edged sword. But otherwise, I think media as such holds us responsible, makes us accountable, keeps us transparent, keeps us going. I think that is very crucial in the society.
And if I can push that conversation to media beyond news, in fact, Frames is a lot more of entertainment, and it's not just the news piece. So I want to get your views on the entertainment industry and what you see coming out. What is the kind of change that you think the entertainment industry, sports entertainment industry, all of media needs to, that you would like to kind of see?
I think it's self-evolving. I mean, if you see most of us who go to cricket games or football games, when we're traveling, or for me, for example, when I'm in a campaign trail, right, I keep my phone on a Hotstar, and I watch cricket games or football games. Like I remember about 2-3 years ago, I was traveling with my family to Mahabaleshwar, and I was in the car, and my nana and I were actually following a game of Test cricket on technology. So I think this evolution has brought really all this entertainment, be it sports entertainment, be it film entertainment, be it any type of entertainment, made them more approachable, made them more human, made them more humane. And in that sense of there are so many idols that we follow. For example, if you see something like, say, the fitness regimen of Virat Kohli, or if you see any actor that you really follow, you've got to see the human side of it. Also, what used to happen on the big screen or the glamour magazines is we used to see the glamour angle of it, not what really goes into building that glamour, or even the negativity that goes towards them as a film personality or as a celebrity, be it from any world. A lot of us have this perspective that, we think that, okay, everything's just glossy for them and everything's very easy for them. But the amount of negativity they can draw, the amount of criticism they can come under, the amount of scrutiny their lives can be under is something, what, with this expansion of the frame has really shown us. So you can be in portrait mode and you can blur out the rest, and you can be in wide angle mode, but the controls are no longer in, anyone's hands.
But do you think, therefore, that the role and the responsibility of these personalities, do you think that that has expanded? Do they have to be much more conscious than they were earlier?
I think they've come to be much more aware of what the responsibilities are in terms of right from endorsements to behavior in public. And of course, I mean, we've not had stray incidents ever in our film industry or in any industry, but it's that everyone just realizes, like I said, the coverage is much more. Of course, there are lots of advantages also to that, and the outreach can be much more. So if you see OTT platforms right now, the amount of us that have watched movies on our laptops or on our phones, be it Netflix, be it Amazon, be it Hotstar, be it Z. So I think it gives us a lot of scope for entertainment, increasing the amount of people you can reach. At the same time, it also increases your scrutiny. So it's always going to be a walk on a tightrope. So,
and now that at this moment, particularly, there is a lot of scrutiny, or there's a lot of questions being raised about how closely media should be reacting to the news, to political news, really. Specifically, China now, 59 apps have been banned. Indian Army is banned even more than that. What's your view? What's your take on this? Should we be considering that the tensions with China before we think about sort of media and how we do business with China?
Again, media is a platform to for dissemination of information. Now, whether the information is helpful to humanity at large, to society at large, to the country at large, is something we've got to see. I mean, if there's something detrimental or tilting towards damaging our countries or national interest. Now, again, how we define national interest. I mean, the thin line of being anti-national and anti-government. The thin line of whether.
So nice to hear you making that distinction. I think that's a lovely thing. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, I genuinely believe that we should be open for criticism as government, because that is where we have a scope for improving ourselves. And of course, if there is constructive criticism of showing us where we are going wrong and where we could go right, I think that could always happen. But yes, I mean, in a globalized world today where borders exist physically, yet in terms of technology, in terms of travel, in terms of trade, in terms of exchange of ideas, there are no borders. In terms of health, we've seen there are no borders. In terms of a pandemic, there are no borders. So again, we've got to realize where that little thin line lies and how blurred it is, how thick it is in terms of whether it is important to ban something or not, how it could affect our national interests or not, and what really is national interest. Of course, if it is giving information which is sensitive to another country, that is, of course, that should be banned. But if it is something which is being used far and wide, has all privacy features, has data security, that is something we could really use further. Like, for example, yesterday or day before, Mr. Hiranandani launched Asia's largest data center that will help us with data security and localization in Mumbai. And that's in Maharashtra. It's the world's second largest, Asia's largest. So these are things that, most of us are coming up with. And to be honest, most of our fellow countrymen across the world are also working in IT. So that is where the hope lies, where these fresh ideas could come back.
If I can ask you specifically, do you think that broadcasters should, like Star right now, should be holding back on Chinese sponsorships of IPL?
Again, that is a matter of national patriotism, and what in fact, we have held back a couple of the investments coming into Maharashtra, because what we believe is, when we are in times of such stress at the border, do we really want to define our relationship with a particular country, be it China, be it Pakistan? Normally, of course, as a human being, you would want to have the best of relationships with all the countries around the world and have peace and joy and one interaction which is so open that it's actually more cultural ties that bind us together and historical ties. But when there is an aggressor, that's the time you need to take a role which is much more defining at a time like this. For example, we've asked the union government whether what should the state's role be towards Chinese investment? Not just contracts, of course. Contracts is something where we say that, okay, we don't want to pay Chinese companies, but when investment is coming in from other countries, what should the state's role be? So I think that is something where, as governments, we have to collaborate with the union government because we are finally a part of one country. And if something is again detrimental to our national security, to our nation's interest, that is where we should just hold back and think again about a strategy to redefine our relationship.
Would you ever voice an opinion, or would you ever be sort of firm about an opinion about Bollywood ambassadors of Chinese products? Do you think that this is the time they should be pulling out? Do you think they should sort of keep going? That's business, and that's it's a different track altogether. Where do you stand on this spectrum?
No, I firmly believe that if someone is aggressing on our country, if there is an aggression from any other country onto our country, that is where we need to take a firm stand and say that, look, this is not something that our country stands for, and therefore we don't endorse your products. We're going to hold back till you have better relationships and normal relationships with us. Now, when your neighboring countries, relationships will go good, will go bad, that is a cycle again. But in times where your country needs you to stand up and voice out something, I think that is when we should strongly stand with our country. Sure. And like I said, again, standing with your country and standing with your government are two different things. But at this time, we should stand together as one for the country.
Sure. Wonderful. One more question on the media piece. Seems that we are on a bit of a timer. So one more question on the media piece. One of the things about Bollywood specifically is that it's such a melting pot, and there are people right from the lead actor to the spot boys. They've come from all over the country, have come and they make sort of Bollywood happen. Now, generally on migrant issues, the Sena, has historically taken a very sort of pro-Marathi sort of stand, which can be seen to be at the cost of migrants. And I think you've tried very hard to make that distinction, but I think, often it is seen as that way. Given a post-COVID now, what is your view on the relationship between migrants and Maharashtra?
No, see, migrants traditionally, and this is now actually being said in UK with Brexit and in the US with Trump. What we've said is, if there are two people with the same skill set, and if someone is from the same state, be it Maharashtra, or be it in Bihar for someone from Bihar, or Kerala in the state of Kerala, the local person should get the job first if he has the same skill set as the other person who's coming in and taking the job at probably a lower rate. You renegotiate the rate with the person, the salary, the fee. But the locals must have the first right for something where the skill set is the same. However, if you see in terms of the relationship with migrant labor, in fact, right now, a lot of people were, a little surprised, little shocked of how the state has really supported the migrant labor in Maharashtra, because the CM himself has spent about almost 85 crores from the CM Relief Fund to sponsor their tickets to their home states, and now they're coming back, and we're encouraging them to come back and take up the jobs that that there is no skill set or there is no other person to work for. However, when we have companies coming in, when we have industries coming in, we're saying, look, hotels, be it, for example, any of the hotel, 5-star hotel or hospital or school that you walk into in a city like Mumbai, all of them are Sena unions, and all of them are local boys and girls who've been employed from the locality, but the skill sets have been some of the best, and one of the best hospitality sector is from Mumbai. Some of our hotels are actually world renowned. So all we're saying is, first go for the local kids or local people if you have the same skill set. If there is some dearth, then of course, or if there is extra labor needed, extra people needed, then we're open to anyone else. So that is not really a block in the mind as such. All we're saying is, wherever you are across the world, the locals must get preference when there is that skill set remaining. But of course, if you see right now in this whole COVID crisis, the way this state has taken care of the migrant labor, I don't think any other state has. We had almost 6 lakh people, 6 lakh migrant labor in different camps across Maharashtra. The healthcare being looked after, food 3 meals a day, the best of facilities to stay in, maybe yoga somewhere wherever we could, some entertainment somewhere, and then they were sent back very respectfully with great honor, and they've come back. Also, they've started work in many sites. So there is no confusion in that sense.
Yeah. On the education piece, this is also sort of something that you've been passionate about. sort of right now, the Shiv Sena, NCP, INC, all are saying no exams. And ABVP, I think the BJP and the center is in a little bit of conflict along with the ABVP, which is saying we must do exams. What is your personal view on this right now?
No, our personal view is only 2, 3 things. One is, how will you hold exams? We were in a lockdown when we had about 600 cases. Today, when the country has about 7 lakh cases, we are actually asking kids to go out in a congregation and give exams, touch multiple surfaces. We're asking teachers who might be around 50, 60 plus, which is also the vulnerable group, to come out and conduct the exams. We're asking them to go and correct exams. So all this is going to lead into various multiple congregations of people from different areas. Some of them might be from containment zones, some of them might be from green zones. Again, whether the syllabus is complete or not. And then why did we not hold the exams when we had 600 cases of infection? Why are we doing it when we have 700,000 cases of infection? The other thing is, the MVA government actually had worked out a formula sitting with all the vice chancellors and some of the education experts on 2 basic fundamental criteria. One is fairness and justice. The other one is justice. Now, fairness and justice goes as this, that whoever feels that today I cannot step out and give an exam, I'm under mental duress, or my area is containment zones, today can get aggregate marks. We were going to give passing marks to everyone, which is aggregate, which is also done through continuous assessment of all the 5 semesters or whatever semesters that they've done in the last 3 years, 2 years of their college life. That is how the world actually gauges the students on. It is not on one single exam. Any international university will look at your continuous assessment and your capability to cope up with that rather than just one exam. And 2, so basically you would get an aggregate mark and you would pass, you get a passing certificate. However, even after that passing certificate and passing marks on aggregate, if you think that you still want to strive for excellence, we were giving the opportunity, and we still will give the opportunity to all students to give an exam whenever this opens up. So we're not taking away the opportunity for anyone to give an academic exam. But what has also happened is, because of this flip-flop of the UGC from, say, March onwards, that's been 4 months now, today a lot of kids who've applied abroad got admissions on aggregate marks in September. Their term starts, be it an LSE, be it any university in the UK or USA. They would miss out on an entire year, and they might not get admissions there ever again because this year has gone waste. And then we're saying that, okay, give examinations in September. Now, examinations in India typically start off with a paper leak. Then you give an examination, and then you have delays in evaluation, and then you go for evaluation. So that's, I'm not being a cynic of our system. And of course, our system needs a lot of reform that we're really working on.
Yeah.
But it's going to take you minimum 4 to 5 months. So by the time you end up with your examination marks, it's January, and the whole term has started midway. You can't apply.
Right.
You've missed out on your jobs. You've missed out on your education further, and you've created a mess. And just yesterday, I think I read this news piece of Karnataka conducting examinations. But 35 kids have tested positive, and some more have been in quarantine. So is this what we really want for a student? And finally, this isn't a normal time. This isn't a calamity like an earthquake or a flood where a calamity has come and gone, and then you can work on the relief and response work. This is an ongoing pandemic. It is global. So that is what the fear is.
Sure. I'm getting pinged to say that you got time up. I'll just try for a short answer with the last question, then you can jump off, I guess. But, something that I kind of think of a lot, when you are in the cabinet meeting, it's a question I have for myself, I'm asking you. The fact that you are the son of the chief minister, does that give you license to ask tougher questions, or do you have to go, or do you have to ask more reserved questions then?
I think this cabinet is something like when you have a cricket game, which is the best 11, it's something like that, because you've got the best of all parties. And of course, there is a lot more good players within the parties as well as who could have been ministers. But, you've got the best of the 3 parties coming into the cabinet, and you have everyone asking questions, everyone debating, deliberating over various issues. And of course, as a first-time minister, as the youngest minister, my seat is at the end. So of course I have to wait for my turn and raise my hand.
Okay, that's wonderful. Look, I wanted to talk to you about tourism and so many other things, but I'm getting a ping that you need to leave. So I'll stop right there. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure chatting, and I hope we could do this again on a longer session.
For sure. Probably an idea exchange we could do.
Yeah, I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
Thank you both very much, Aditya. I completely appreciate your honesty and the fact that you are what you are, and you don't need to be. There should be no perception about you. The fact that you are willing to accept others only if locals do not have the necessary skill set. The fact that you are the third generation of the people that I have known. I've had the privilege of knowing your grandfather, the pleasure of knowing your parents, and absolutely delighted to have you on board with us. I thank you wholeheartedly. And Anant, thank you for this wonderful job that you did. We look forward to meeting you again. In the meantime, stay healthy, stay safe. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.